is such an astonishing place to be in. I mean, it's magnificently beautiful and exciting. And
when the world lost Diane Keaton on October 11th, 2025, fans mourned a woman who had redefined Hollywood charm. Her passing at 79 seemed peaceful. At least, that's what everyone believed. Tributes poured in from Al Pacino, Goldie Hawn, and Woody Allen, celebrating her humor and eccentric brilliance. But behind the heartfelt posts and glowing headlines, there were quiet whispers, rumors that not everything about her final days added up. Friends described a sudden decline that shocked even those closest to her. Now, with the release of her official autopsy report, new details are painting a far darker, more complicated picture of what really happened to the woman who made us laugh, cry, and believe in love. How her mother made her famous. Diane Keaton has always been one of those Hollywood figures who can't be boxed in. Actress, filmmaker, fashion icon, she's known for her quirky, self-deprecating humor and that bold, gender-bending style that's been impossible to imitate. Everything about her feels original, like she was born to stand out. Born Diane Hall on January 5, 1946, in sunny Los Angeles, she grew up in a creative household. Her mother was a homemaker with a passion for photography, while her father worked as a civil engineer and dabbled in real estate. That blend of practicality and creativity shaped Diane in more ways than one. She still keeps a hand in both photography and real estate to this day. Ironically, it was her mom who gave her the first real push toward the stage. When Diane was little, she watched her mother compete in and win the Mrs. Los Angeles pageant for homemakers. Seeing her mother bask in that spotlight sparked something in her. That single moment made her realize she wanted to perform. It was her wake-up call. Without that inspiration, Diane Keaton might never have become the star she is today. After years of studying acting and singing, she finally packed her bags and headed for New York City, ready to chase her dreams. Joining the Actors Equity Association, she quickly ran into her first roadblock. Someone else already had the name Diane Hall. Determined to stand out, she borrowed her mother's maiden name and officially became Diane Keaton. It was a small change that ended up defining a massive career. Her first big break came during the wild, free-spirited energy of 1968, when she landed a part in the Broadway musical Hair. The show was a cultural lightning bolt, celebrating freedom, rebellion, and youth. And Diane fit right in. But it also came with controversy. At the end of Act 1, the cast had the option to appear nude. Despite being offered a $50 bonus, Keaton stood firm and refused. The decision set her apart immediately. Still, it wasn't the only pressure she faced. When the director suggested she lose 10 pounds for a lead role, it triggered a tough battle with bulimia that lasted 5 years. And in a twist of fate, one person would end up helping her overcome it, without even realizing it at first. Around that same time, she auditioned for Woody Allen's Play It Again, Sam, and landed the part as his on-stage love interest. Allen was instantly drawn to her sharp wit and offbeat charm. After a few rehearsals and dinners together, their professional chemistry turned into something more. There was just one minor hiccup. She was taller than him. At 5'8", Keaton stood 2 inches above Allen, and he worried how that would look on stage. But once they performed together, all doubts disappeared. Their connection was undeniable, and Keaton earned a Tony Award nomination for Best Featured Actress in a Play. Their offstage relationship was just as colorful. The two loved to tease and mock each other in a strange but affectionate way. Keaton adored his thick glasses and awkward charm, calling him her great body, while Allen threw back a series of playful nicknames like Lamphead, Monster, Worm, and Snookums. Their banter was constant, sharp, and oddly endearing. But behind all the laughter, Keaton was fighting her own silent battle. Her struggles with body image and bulimia kept her distant, often canceling dates just to hide what was really going on. When she was alone, she would binge on food and then purge in secret. Alan, completely unaware, once joked that she just had a big appetite, admitting later that if he'd known the truth, he wouldn't have taken her to all those fancy restaurants. Sensing something deeper, Alan encouraged her to see a psychoanalyst. For 18 months, she threw herself into therapy. Then, almost unexpectedly, she began to heal. The bulimia faded, and so did their romantic relationship. But that ending set the stage for something even greater, the start of a creative partnership that would soon make film history. The role Diane Keaton never prepared for. Diane Keaton's first major acting role turned out to be a massive one. And the funny thing is, she didn't even prepare for it. She hadn't read the Godfather novel and admitted she barely understood the story. Somehow, she still landed the part of Kay Adams, the woman who would become the wife of the Godfather himself. And honestly, without her, one of the greatest films ever made could have looked completely different. In a conversation with The Hollywood Reporter, Keaton reflected on her early days, recalling the endless cycle of auditions and the uncertainty that came with being a struggling actor. Like so many others in Hollywood, she was just hoping for that one big break. And once she started landing parts, it was obvious she had something special. That spark made her perfect for Kay, at least to everyone except Keaton herself. When the interviewer, Mia Gallupo, mentioned that Keaton once felt like she wasn't right for the role, Keaton didn't hesitate to agree. She admitted she was terrified and didn't understand why she had been chosen. She explained that she hadn't read the script, hadn't really grasped what she was auditioning for, but she needed a job and took a chance. She'd been auditioning for about a year, and suddenly, out of nowhere, this opportunity appeared. Even years later, she said she still didn't fully understand why she was picked. According to People, Keaton would go on to describe being cast in The Godfather as the kindest thing anyone had ever done for her, even though she hadn't read the material. It's wild to think that such a career-defining role came from sheer timing and instinct. As Kay Adams, Keaton played the gentle outsider, an all-American woman completely out of her depth in Michael Corleone's Italian crime family. Kay's confusion and fear mirrored the audience's, making her character both relatable and tragic. For her work in the film, Keaton reportedly earned $35,000. Not a bad sum, but far less than what most people might expect given the movie's legendary status. Once she was officially cast, the producers had her join Al Pacino for a screen test to help strengthen his own audition. Keaton often described feeling lucky to be there at all, especially since Pacino himself was close to being replaced. In his memoir, Sonny Boy, Pacino revealed that rumors spread on set that he might be fired from the production. He and Keaton even joked that their careers were over before they'd begun, convinced they were making a disaster. Thankfully, neither of them was cut from the film, but the tension behind the scenes was very real. Pacino later admitted that Paramount initially didn't want him to play Michael Corleone. Even Keaton confirmed it, saying the studio had pushed hard against the idea. What finally changed their minds was the undeniable chemistry between the two actors. Director Francis Ford Coppola had Pacino read with Keaton, and something about their connection sealed the deal. Coppola believed in Pacino completely, and that loyalty made all the difference. Still, the pressure didn't let up. When early footage was reviewed, the studio again questioned Pacino's performance, worried he wasn't right for the part. Coppola took a bold step, rearranging the filming schedule so Pacino could prove himself in a single, career-defining scene. The Italian restaurant sequence where Michael takes his revenge. That moment changed everything. Pacino later said that if he hadn't delivered there, his career might have ended before it even began. Looking back, it's almost impossible to imagine The Godfather without the dynamic between Keaton and Pacino. Their on-screen chemistry was electric, and even Coppola wanted Keaton's take on him afterward. Her reaction was simple but telling. She said, "He's great." That might have been an understatement. Years later, both Keaton and Pacino would have much more to say about what started as an uncertain pairing and became one of cinema's most iconic partnerships. How Diane Keaton accidentally changed fashion. Early in her career, Diane Keaton quickly built a reputation as the kooky actress. She had this offbeat, self-deprecating humor and a sharp intelligence that made her stand out. Her nervous tics, quick wit, and tendency to ramble actually ended up inspiring Woody Allen all over again. She became his muse for a new project he was working on, a film called Annie Hall. Now, casting his ex-girlfriend in the lead role might have seemed strange to some, but there was a reason behind it. Annie Hall was widely viewed as a semi-autobiographical take on Allen's real-life relationship with Keaton. Even the name was personal. Annie came from her actual nickname, and Hall was her original last name. Keaton didn't just play Annie Hall. In a way, she was Annie Hall. She saw the character as a warmer, friendlier version of herself. Woody Allen gave her room to breathe creatively, but not everyone was on board with her unique style choices. When Keaton showed up on set wearing her own clothes, an odd mix of oversized men's pieces, fedoras, vests, and wide-leg pants, costume designer Ruth Morley wasn't thrilled. But Allen trusted her instincts completely, brushing off the concerns with a simple response: leave her. And that decision changed everything. By being allowed to just be herself, Keaton accidentally became a fashion icon. The late 1970s were hungry for something new, and her look in Annie Hall delivered it. The menswear-inspired outfits, straight from her closet, sparked a cultural shift. Suddenly, women everywhere were rocking ties, trousers, and vests. Without trying, she started a movement. And then there was that unforgettable line, "La-dee-da." It became one of her trademarks. Woody Allen claimed it came from her real-life speech patterns and even credited her for it. But when Keaton was asked about it later, she just laughed it off, saying he was out of his mind. After Annie Hall, Keaton didn't want to be boxed in as the quirky, awkward girl. She wanted to stretch her artistic muscles and show audiences a completely different side of herself. That chance came with looking for Mr. Goodbar, where she played a troubled Catholic school teacher drawn to dangerous nightlife. The film was provocative, dark, and shocking, a huge departure from her light-hearted roles. But Keaton wasn't done surprising people. She had already dabbled in music with the original cast recording of Hair, but that experience only made her want more. Throughout the 1970s, she chased a dream of becoming a singer, even recording tracks for a solo album in 1977. Though the project never saw the light of day, it showed her fearless curiosity and constant need to evolve. And then, out of nowhere, life handed her a full-circle moment straight out of a Hollywood script. As a teenager, Keaton had been captivated by actor Warren Beatty after watching him kiss Natalie Wood on screen. She even wrote to the film's producer, pleading for a happier ending. She never got a reply, at least not back then. But years later, on Christmas Eve, the phone rang. On the other end of the line was Warren Beatty himself, and that call would change everything. Just as Diane Keaton was slipping into one of the darker periods of her life, grappling with fame, self-doubt, and everything in between, someone unexpected stepped in to lift her spirits. It was Warren Beatty, the Hollywood heartthrob himself. He reached out to her over the phone and told her she could do absolutely anything she set her mind to, whether that meant becoming a director, a writer, or even a politician. For Keaton, the attraction was instant and intense. She'd been captivated by Beatty long before they ever met. The first time she saw him was in the movie Splendor in the Grass, and she was completely mesmerized. To her, he wasn't just handsome, he was magnetic. She later described him as beautiful, mysterious, and endlessly talented, a rare combination of creative brilliance and charisma that few could match. Once they started seeing each other, Beatty's romantic gestures only deepened her feelings. One story in particular shows how deeply he cared. When Keaton confessed she was terrified of flying from Los Angeles to New York, Beatty didn't just reassure her, he boarded the plane with her. He held her hand the entire flight, kissed it when they landed, and then turned around and flew straight back home. It was the kind of grand gesture straight out of a movie, and it swept her off her feet. Beatty didn't stop there. On one Valentine's Day, he went all out, transforming her home into something out of a spa brochure. He had a sauna installed in one of her bathrooms and a steam room in the other, just because he could. Their chemistry was undeniable, and for a while, it looked like they were the ultimate Hollywood couple. Keaton often said that Beatty was unlike anyone else she had ever met. He was gifted, complex, and endlessly fascinating. And Beatty had just as much admiration for her. He spoke openly about his love for her, describing her as smart, funny, fair-minded, and radiant, someone with both integrity and a wicked sense of humor. But behind all the affection, Keaton often felt out of place. Beatty's circle of intellectual Hollywood friends intimidated her, and his sophistication only amplified her insecurities. Working together on Reds didn't make things easier. Between the stress of acting opposite her partner and the film's long production delays, the pressure nearly drove her to quit. In the end, Keaton pushed through, delivering one of her strongest performances. Reds earned her critical acclaim, but the victory was bittersweet. By the time the movie hit theaters, her relationship with Beatty was falling apart. Both of them were too ambitious and too devoted to their work to make love and career coexist. Looking back, Keaton admitted that she never wanted to sacrifice her independence for anyone. Growing up, she'd watched her mother give up her own dreams to raise a family, and she was determined not to repeat that pattern. For her, staying true to herself was non-negotiable. Beatty, meanwhile, never spoke poorly of his former partners. Despite his reputation as a Hollywood playboy, he always expressed respect for the women he'd been with, saying he liked to think he remained friends with them even after the romance ended. That chapter with Beatty was proof that love between co-stars can burn bright, but it doesn't always last. And when it ended, Keaton didn't waste time looking back. Her next potential romance was far less cinematic and far more awkward. Her neighbor, a young and intensely focused Steve Jobs, invited her over to talk about his big ideas for the future. Within minutes, she realized she couldn't keep up with all the computer talk, and any spark that might have been there fizzled out instantly. Professionally, though, things were also rocky. Hoping to reinvent herself, Keaton tried her hand at the thriller genre with The Little Drummer Girl in 1984. The movie was a flop. Critics said she was miscast, and one review even claimed she'd never live it down. But Keaton's story didn't end there. Just a few years later, she found her stride again with the hit film Baby Boom in 1987, a role that perfectly balanced her comedic charm and emotional depth. The movie was directed by Nancy Meyers, who became one of Keaton's closest collaborators. Together, they went on to create a string of successful films that reminded everyone why Diane Keaton was, and still is, one of Hollywood's most captivating forces. She had finally learned the secret to longevity in Hollywood. Find what works, and keep doing it. Diane Keaton's Heartbreak and Hollywood Rebirth. 2 decades after The Godfather Part 2, Diane Keaton stepped back into her iconic role for the 3rd installment. But this time around, critics weren't exactly kind. Many felt her character lacked depth, reduced mostly to scenes of her scolding her ex-husband. The Washington Post even said she suffered tremendously on screen. Tough crowd. Still, if the role didn't offer much satisfaction, the experience on set gave her something else. Another chance with a longtime crush. Keaton reunited with Al Pacino, and for a moment, it seemed like everything aligned. They were both single, both deeply connected, and soon their chemistry spilled off screen. Keaton was completely smitten. She described Pacino as the most entertaining man, with the most beautiful face that was just killer. But this time, it was her own intensity that seemed to scare him off. She later admitted she'd been taken with Pacino from the start. In interviews, she described him as charming, hilarious, constantly talking, and carrying this mysterious, lost energy that drew her in. To her, he was irresistible. Still, she started to wonder if maybe he only saw her as a friend. When she finally asked him to marry her, Pacino pulled away completely and disappeared from her life. That heartbreak hit hard. After their split and the end of The Godfather Part 3, Keaton spiraled into self-doubt. She worried she wasn't attractive enough, lost what little confidence she had, and was haunted by the thought that she'd driven him away. But just when she thought she was past it all, a familiar face from her past came calling. In 1993, Woody Allen reached out. He was deep in controversy, locked in a messy custody battle with Mia Farrow, and needed Keaton's help for his new film, Manhattan Murder Mystery. Always loyal, Keaton didn't hesitate to step in. The atmosphere on set could have been tense, but her presence changed everything. Even Angelica Houston said she made the set calm, relaxed, and free of tension. For Allen, she was therapeutic, a grounding force who helped the film stay on track despite the chaos around it. Over the years, Keaton has stood firmly by Woody Allen, even as his reputation suffered. She's refused to add fuel to the gossip, simply saying, "I believe my friend." And somehow, she managed to escape the backlash herself. Before long, she landed another major role, one that would catapult her back into the spotlight. That role came in The First Wives Club, alongside Goldie Hawn and Bette Midler. The movie wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural moment. The story of women getting even after being replaced by younger lovers struck a chord with audiences everywhere. Women saw themselves in those characters, and suddenly, the film became a movement. Behind the scenes, things were just as lively. Keaton revealed that much of their bond developed in the makeup trailer. She connected most with Goldie Hawn, her trailer mate, even though Goldie's endless positivity could be a little draining. Bette Midler, on the other hand, brought her strong personality to the forefront, especially during the film's iconic closing scene set to Leslie Gore's "You Don't Own Me." Keaton struggled with the choreography, and Midler didn't hold back in pushing her co-stars to sing with more energy. Despite the chaos, Keaton later said that scene was her favorite moment of the entire film. After that, the offers slowed down again, but then came a new opportunity, one that would define her later career. Keaton signed on for Something's Gotta Give with Jack Nicholson, directed by Nancy Meyers. She was 56. Jack was 65. And believe it or not, the studio worried audiences wouldn't show up for a romance between two people that age. They thought it was a risky choice. Keaton wasn't having it. She argued that love doesn't have an age limit, that people who've lived more have deeper, richer stories to tell. And she was right. The film became a massive hit, earning her both critical and commercial success. It also forced her to confront a longtime fear: vulnerability. In one unforgettable scene, she had to appear completely bare. But rather than prepare obsessively, she decided to embrace it as part of aging gracefully. She later said that as you get older, your body stops feeling like a precious commodity. It just becomes part of your story. The audience loved her confidence, and apparently, so did her co-star. In fact, Keaton's performance was so authentic that Nicholson himself got confused. After a rehearsal, he pulled director Nancy Meyers aside and said, "Diane just told me she loved me." Meyers had to laugh and remind him, "It's in the script, Jack." Diane Keaton's Autopsy released, and it's worse than we thought. Diane Keaton passed away on October 11, 2025, in California at the age of 79. The news sent shockwaves across Hollywood and beyond. That morning, a 911 call captured the heartbreaking final moments of the beloved star, known for classics like Something's Gotta Give and Annie Hall. The Los Angeles Fire Department responded to the emergency at her home, and according to TMZ, the dispatcher's voice calmly relayed the tragic call: "Rescue 19. Person down." Her family later confirmed the cause of death and took time to express their gratitude for the overwhelming love and support they received. They revealed that Keaton had passed away from pneumonia and asked that instead of sending flowers, people honor her memory through kindness by donating to animal shelters or local food banks. It was the perfect tribute for a woman who had always championed the unhoused and cared deeply for her animals. In the days that followed, friends close to Keaton began to share how sudden her passing really was. One longtime companion told People magazine that her health had declined very quickly, something none of them saw coming. For someone known for her strength and infectious energy, it was especially devastating. During her final months, Keaton kept her circle small, surrounded only by close family members who chose to keep everything private. Even her closest friends had little idea of what was happening. Carol Bayer Sager, the Grammy and Oscar-winning songwriter who shared a decades-long friendship with Keaton, spoke about the changes she had noticed. She said Keaton had lost a noticeable amount of weight and admitted she was stunned by how frail her friend had appeared just weeks before her death. Another source added that Keaton had rarely been seen outside her Brentwood home in those last months, even though she had always been a familiar sight in the neighborhood. Neighbors remembered her as warm, chatty, and endlessly funny. She walked her dog every morning, dressed in her signature style: wide-brimmed hat, dark sunglasses, and tailored clothes. People said she often talked to her dog like it was an old friend, something that perfectly captured her quirky, genuine personality. A film executive who was also close to her recalled that she never lost her sense of humor, even near the end. Keaton lived life entirely on her own terms, surrounded by the people and things she loved most, and she preferred it that way. She never publicly shared whether she was battling an illness, but she had survived tough health challenges before: 2 bouts with skin cancer and a long fight with an eating disorder. Her final Instagram post, shared on April 11th, showed a sweet picture of her golden retriever, Reggie. It was a simple, heartfelt moment that became all the more poignant after her passing. For fans and friends alike, Keaton's death felt like it came out of nowhere. She hadn't been seen publicly for months, and her calm, cheerful social media posts gave no hint of any struggle. When the news broke, tributes poured in from all corners of Hollywood. Goldie Hawn, her First Wives Club co-star, called her passing magical yet deeply painful, describing her as someone who left behind light and beauty wherever she went. Sarah Paulson, who worked with her on The Other Sister, became emotional in an interview, saying the loss of such a dear friend was still too difficult to talk about. Keaton's former partners, some of Hollywood's biggest names, also shared their grief. Al Pacino, her Godfather co-star and former boyfriend, reflected on how she had shaped his life, describing her as both a partner and a source of happiness. Woody Allen, who had shared not only a creative bond but a long personal history with her, wrote about their first meeting in an essay, recalling how instantly she had captivated him. Diane Keaton's passing marked the end of an era. She wasn't just a movie star, she was an original. Her wit, charm, eccentricity, and warmth made her one of a kind. And even in her final days, she remained true to who she always was: authentic, independent, and unforgettable. The heartbreaking reports about Diane Keaton's final days in California. There are new and deeply emotional details emerging about the loss of Hollywood legend Diane Keaton, who passed away at 79 on October 11th. In the beginning, her children, Dexter Keaton White and Duke Keaton, asked for privacy as they processed their grief. But just a few days later, on October 16th, a family spokesperson confirmed to People magazine that the cause of death was pneumonia. According to a death certificate obtained by the New York Times, Keaton passed away at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica, California. Those final days in her home state were reportedly very difficult. A source close to the family told People that her decline was sudden and devastating for everyone who loved her. They described it as completely unexpected, especially for someone known for her strength, humor, and spirit. In those last months, Keaton was surrounded only by her closest family members. Even some of her longtime friends had no idea how serious things had become, as her loved ones chose to keep her condition private. Just 2 weeks before her passing, Keaton made an unexpected move. She quietly took her beloved dream home off the market, a property she had first listed back in March for an impressive $29 million, according to Realtor.com. While most people know her for her incredible acting career, Diane Keaton had another lifelong passion that defined her just as much: architecture and interior design. She wasn't just dabbling in it. She was genuinely skilled and respected in that world. Over the years, she built an extraordinary reputation as a house flipper, transforming and reselling beautiful homes across the country. From chic New York apartments to sprawling California estates and even properties in Arizona, her design touch was unmistakable. In an interview with Architectural Digest, Keaton explained that her approach was all about authenticity, finding historic homes and restoring them to their true essence. She once admitted that her dream was to keep buying and reviving houses that represented the spirit of California's architecture. Those restoration projects didn't just bring her creative fulfillment, they also added significantly to her impressive net worth. But in 2017, something shifted. After years of renovating homes and moving on, Keaton finally found one that felt too special to sell. It was the stunning Sullivan Canyon Estate, a 5-bedroom, 7-bathroom property that became her sanctuary. When speaking to Wine Spectator that same year, she opened up about her lifelong fascination with the idea of home. She admitted she'd never been one to settle down for long, always chasing the next space to transform, but this time felt different. The Sullivan Canyon House, a 9,219-square-foot brick masterpiece, even inspired her third book, The House That Pinterest Built. Its traditional red brick exterior immediately reminded her of a childhood story her mother used to read, The Three Little Pigs. In that tale, the brick house was the one that stood strong when everything else fell apart. That story stuck with her. She once said she always knew she'd live in a brick house when she grew up. And in the end, that's exactly what she did, finding comfort and strength in the kind of home she'd dreamed about since she was a little girl.